Good morning, 8th grade parents. My name is Ronnie Sherrier, one of the high school counselors here. I was just remarking as we were sitting up here, we're usually up here every month, every 6 weeks, doing various presentations throughout the year. So hopefully over the next 4 years, you'll get to hear from us lots. But it's always, I see a lot of the same parents over and over and again. And, there's, these parents that I get to know over the 4 years that I'm like, oh, they're here, great. And here I'm looking out and I'm like, I don't think I know almost anybody out here. So this is a fun new experience for us. So we are the KIS High School Counseling Team. And today we are going to talk really about course registration. That's kind of the impetus for this conversation, but it's a good jumping off point both to introduce ourselves, since we'll be people you'll be spending a lot of time with over the next few years, and also start to talk about life in high school. We'd sent out the survey to you guys over the last week or two, and there are a lot of questions. We're going to get to some of them, but some of them are going to come at a later time, right? We kind of want to do a light introduction to high school and really talk about course registration and the things that you and your 8th grade children can be focusing on now, and talk about what the timeline looks like for that transition into high school. So here's kind of an overview of what we're going to be talking about. We'll also going to record this session, so if there's information that you feel like you missed or wanted to go back over, we'll be sending out the slides, the presentation, and some links to a couple of documents that might be important to you guys later. So we'll introduce ourselves. I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves here in a second. We're going to talk about life in high school, some of the opportunities, activities, extracurriculars, clubs, and then we're going to kind of dive into course registration, which your children will be doing this week. And so looking both at what that looks like this week, but also starting to think about what that'll look like high school for the next 4 years and beyond. We're going to really talk about balance, commitments, not trying to stretch themselves too thin. How can we set these young people up for the most success? And then kind of a timeline for the rest of the year, and then we'll open it up to questions. So here's our team. Again, my name's Ronnie Sherrier. This is my 5th year at KIS. And so if you've had older children here over the last few years, you've probably seen me around. And here's the rest of the team.
All right, well, good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm Miss Haas, Vicki Haas. This is my first year here at KIS. However, my 14th year as a counselor. Previously, I spent about 6 years in Minnesota working at a college prep high school, and then previously before that, time in Bangkok, Thailand as well. So I kind of have the international and the U.S. space kind of mindset, so I'm really excited to get to know you. It's been a wonderful first semester. I really have enjoyed my time here and getting to know my students, and it really is what we enjoy the most about our jobs is to get to know your students and to work with them for 4 years. So as Ronnie shared, it will be here in 4 years. We'll be with you guys together and kind of gone through all the journeys, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. So I'm looking forward to working with you all, so nice to meet you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Dale Samuels. This is my 3rd year now here at KIS, but I'm in my 6th year in Korea. I was previously at Dwight School Seoul as a counselor there. I'm originally from the UK, but I have lived and studied and worked in many countries all over the world, including the US. I was a high school student in the US before as well.
And good morning, everybody. My name is Chuck Krugler, and this is also my first year at KIS, but I'm not new to Korea. I was a counselor at Seoul Foreign School for 23 years, and then it was the last 7 years at GSIS in Suwon. So 30 years in Korea. This is year number 31. Doing my tour of international schools in Korea, but it's been great being here at KIS. I love the faculty, the students. It's a great school that we have here, and a great counseling team that I get to work with.
He's finally come to his senses and come to the best school.
That's right. I see that.
And the most important person is Yuna Seo. She is in the back there. Yuna runs our counseling office. She's the go-to person for questions, where we are. She's an incredible resource. She also does a lot of translations in a lot of our meetings and presentations. And she just is smarter than all of us. So you'll get to know her very well. So One of the things that we want to start with is, what does it mean to be a high school counselor? We have an incredible middle school counseling team, but that experience looks different, both in the time that they have as well as just the number of counselors. So as you come to high school, you can see there's 4 of us. We work with students from 9th grade through graduation. And so we're incredibly fortunate to have a very small number of students. And so each of us end up working with about 20 to 25 students in each grade. And so we have a lot of time for individual meetings as well as very small group instructions. And we'll talk a little bit about what that schedule looks like, but we do run counseling lessons throughout the year with your students, as well as lots of one-on-one conversations over the next 4 years. As I think about the seniors that I've had, I've just spent 100 hours, 200 hours, sometimes more with them. We really, really get to know them, which is a really, really fortunate thing about being a counselor here at KIS. And so that will be a big piece. A big difference, I think, as you go into high school is that relationship and that kind of ongoing support and really getting to know them in a number of different ways. Obviously today, one of the big things we're talking about is academics, right? And so academic counseling, talking about course registration, as we get to know your children, working with them to kind of understand their strengths, their goals, how do we align those, working with them and their teachers, working with them on building some of those study habit skills, time management skills. There's a number of things that we'll be working with them throughout. We also do social emotional counseling. It's hard to be a teenager. It's hard to be a person. And so building those emotional skills, understanding that kind of self-awareness, self-regulation, being able to just articulate what it is that they're feeling and having kind of a go-to arsenal of what they can do to help themselves and who do they know in their lives that can support them. Right? We, as their counselors, are a great avenue, but there's lots of people, both within the school and outside of the school, that are there to support them. You as parents, their friends, outside resources, teachers, and so understanding how they can utilize all the people around them is a big part of the work that we do with them. College and career, that's, we are a college preparatory high school, so there is kind of a lot of emphasis on what life after high school looks like. And while the college acceptance can sometimes be front of mind for students, really we're trying to build them up with those other skills, the academic skills, the personal skills, the kind of awareness, so that they are best equipped when it comes to the college applications and kind of planning for what that looks like. And then just being a safe space, right? And all of this is encompassed. I think it's really hard to think about college counseling as a one-off piece because there's so many emotions and worries and hopes and fears and things that go along with that. But same thing with academic, social, emotional. They're all kind of tied together. And so we are, really, I think first and foremost, an advocate for them and somebody that hopefully they will grow to trust and rely on when anything comes up that's related to kind of what's going on in their life.
I really want to hone in on that kind of social and emotional piece. I feel like when students get to high school, they sometimes see us as college counselor, and they only want to show us the perfect side of them and try to avoid showing us the real side of them. And I just want to reinforce that, Mr. Sharia did speak on it, but we are really here to support students in every way. And when students do come and speak to us about the social emotional side and the difficulties that they go through, that really does create a stronger relationship between student and counselor. And when it does then come to talk to, when we do speak to colleges or write letters of recommendation, we have a deeper understanding of who that person is because we've worked with them through different challenges that they've had in their life, and that can be really helpful in us helping your student even more so. And so sometimes students feel like, oh, I'm not going to speak to the college counselor about something I'm going through that's difficult because I wouldn't want them to write that on my letter of recommendation. And of course, we're only going to speak about your student in the most positive light to help them show themselves as best as they can. But I just want to really reinforce that we're here to support your students in everything, and those working with your students through those challenges can be really helpful in us creating a really close and better relationship to support them throughout high school.
Oh, and I was going to say, same goes for the parents, right? I think it's important that not only the students come in, but the parents are sharing information and whatever comfortable. And again, we are confidential and we are a safe place for the parents as well. So there's a passing in your family. That's important for us to know then how we can support the students, whatever it may be. It's really kind of this, high school is this pivotal moment that students need support. And I think we'll continue to say that word support because it's for you and for your students. So I think that's a vital piece that we just really want. It's a safe place. I think it's why we really love our jobs. It's probably the piece of our jobs that we love the most is really connecting with the students.
And I always talk about it from a team approach, that we're all members of the same team, and we're working towards your son or daughter's future. And so we're here to work with you as parents, but the students are really the captains of the team. We want them leading this process. But again, we're here to support you as your counselor, as your son or daughter's counselor as well.
So let's continue talking about this word support. So there's various ways that your student, when they enter ninth grade, will have academic, social, emotional support. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the things that are prevalent that your student will right off the bat have once they enter ninth grade. So we have what's called Phoenix Ambassadors. So these are upperclassmen who are selected to kind of be mentors for our students. And whether that's showing them around the classrooms, kind of guiding them to lunchroom buddies, it really is to make this unified. You're not just a ninth grader or a 10th grader. It really is to kind of this cohesive, like, come join us. You're in high school now. Let me show you the ropes. And it's really not to divide your student as just this ninth grader, and really for them to feel a sense of comfort. Then look up to these students and have them kind of be their role models and ask questions. Sometimes it may be silly questions. How do I get to X, Y, and Z, or how do I open my locker? Whatever it may be, they have this upperclassman as their support system. Something that's a little bit different than in the high school than the middle school is what's called this autonomous time. Every one of your students for the 4 years will have a block of auto block. This is a time that is not academic. It's really just, for lack of better words, a study hall. During this time, students will either have time to work on their homework, connect with teachers, connect with us. This is a great opportunity. This is the time that we ask our students if they need to see us, that they can come and see us. There will be some other lessons throughout the year from administration or government lessons. Sometimes it's taken during that auto block, but it really is a good time for your student to just take a break and kind of do and handle all the other tasks that they need to outside of the classroom. It's a time for them to socialize. I really do tell my students, like, often you are sitting in the classroom learning, spend 20 minutes just hanging out and chit-chatting. It is good for them. So they will have that scheduled in their block. It is not something that they can take out. They have it for the 4 years of their high school career. And as I mentioned, this is a great time for them to meet with us during their auto time. And it's also a time that even today, we are going into the 10th grade auto blocks to give lessons. So we give our counseling lessons, our social emotional lessons, kind of really, it varies. We have our curriculum set for each grade level, and we connect. So your student will not only can see us one-on-one, but they'll be seeing us in a group setting as well. So it's various times that we're connecting with your student throughout all their 4 years. And again, we are just here to support them, and we will touch base with them as much as we can in various ways too.
One of the questions that we get a lot, especially from ninth grade parents at the beginning of the year, is how do you see my child? How do they come see you? How do they get support? And that'll be something that'll be part of the beginning of next year. We'll really walk them through how to schedule appointments with us, where to find us. And for probably the first quarter or so, we're really pulling them in quite a bit. So trying to get them familiar with us, comfortable with how to come see us. But very quickly, I think, all the other counselors would say, like, the students become really good advocates for themselves, and they become really adept at how to schedule appointments with us. They have access to our Google Calendars. You guys will too, once you guys are in high school and have a counselor assigned to your child. And so we try to make it as seamless as possible and as easy as possible for you guys to access us, as well as your children. And so I know that sometimes is kind of a strange thing at the beginning, like how are they going to get used to you? How are they going to get to know the counselor? But we will make that process really easy, and we'll take them as well as you through that at the beginning of 9th grade.
Just to look at our counseling lessons, you may be wondering what type of things do we cover in our counseling lessons. And so today, as Ms. Haas says, we have a grade 10 counseling lesson during auto block. And we'll be looking at facing fears and overcoming fears and boundaries and limitations. We will also do other counseling lessons, perhaps on happiness and social emotional areas. But then we also look at careers and interests and how, especially as they go through the years towards grade 11, how do you select good colleges? What factors should you consider when selecting a college? Obviously, that's later down the line. But as students go through grade 9, grade 10, 11, we try to kind of slowly building block our lessons towards college. But that starts with understanding yourself. That starts with overcoming fears. That starts with knowing what you like and what you don't like, understanding what happiness is, perhaps building good routines, habits on sleep, phone usage, social media addiction, all of those things that we will look through in all of our counseling lessons.
So aside from all the support that we give, oftentimes one of the biggest questions we get is, what should my student be doing? Now they're entering 9th grade, what do they need to do? What should I be putting on their resume? What I want you to enter and have your students entering high school is this is an exploration year. 9th grade really should be about, hey, I've never tried volleyball. Maybe I'm going to go out for the volleyball team. We are so fortunate at KIS that we offer a variety of clubs, sports, music opportunities, competitions, VEX competitions, and activities within our community. We just had students go fly to Bangkok for a service learning trip, and there is just going to be a multitude of opportunities. But when I say that, it doesn't mean that your student has to do all of them. I really stress to my students about the quality over quantity when it comes to your extracurriculars or activities. Your students in high school for clubs, as an example, will be given the opportunity, they will select 3 clubs and it will be built into their schedule. So they will do it after their lunch period. They will have a club that they will attend. Then sports, they are able to select what seasons they want, but truly it is a time for them to see what they like and also what they don't like. The formula of having this extracurricular or this pathway to get to a certain university does not really exist. It really should be for what your child is interested in. If your child is not interested in music, do not put them in music just because you think that X university is going to accept them because they were in the music program. It really should be fostering your own students' interests, likes, and really kind of diving into maybe something that they haven't had the opportunity to explore in 8th grade, but now it's available to them in the high school. It really is important that there is no prescription, no right formula to get into a university. And it's about a healthy balance. I think oftentimes we want to stress, and students know from my 9th graders know, I have 10 slots on my application to the universities. What 10 slots can I fill? That is not a mandatory requirement. We have students and we have universities say that they accepted, in fact, I had a conversation with one of my students who was speaking to an MIT student, and they were having conversations about his ECs, and the MIT student said, I did about 6 things. I failed 6, I didn't fill my 10. And my student looked at me and goes, can you believe it? You didn't fill all 10. And I go, yeah, that's okay. Because he had quality. If I probably was to look back at this MIT students, the 6 that were really done well, and he dived into his passions, or he really explored or found what he really liked and then just stuck with it. So we will work through your students with that. I think that's a big conversation we have in ninth grade of like, where should we go into? And also you want to dive into programs that you like and stick with them to build leadership opportunities. So I start Model UN in ninth grade and I really enjoy sticking with it for the 4 years to then get a leadership role. That is what universities want to see. They want to kind of see that dedication and kind of that natural desire to do better in that club. So really, again, and we'll, as we move forward in the conversations you have with us directly, please have these conversations so we can make sure that your student is balanced and doing kind of what motivates them, because colleges can see through if a student just kind of lists all these applications and started them just kind of for the purpose of filling an application for their resumes.
I'm going to be even a little more direct because we get this question a lot. And some of you submitted questions. What can my student do in ninth grade to help them prepare for college? What can they do to set them up for college? There is nothing on this slide that they're going to do next year that's going to help them get into college. What they need to be doing in ninth grade is what Vicki is talking about. It's exploration. Who are they? Figuring out how to be a high school student, right? There's a lot that goes with that. But how do they balance their time commitments? How do they learn how to ask questions to a teacher? How do they get more interested in whether it's a class, whether it's a project, whether it's an extracurricular? How are they just curious? We have, and we've seen lots of students who immediately are just trying to fill out their 10 ECs on their application right now. But freshmen don't get accepted into university. Seniors get accepted into universities, right? Young men and young women who are hopefully curious about the world and strong academic students and strong in their community. But nobody's going to look at what a 14-year-old does and goes, oh, we're going to accept this student because they did XYZ club when they, 4 years ago. Right? Next year is about building a foundation, right? And it's about having the opportunity to make mistakes, to try new things that maybe they aren't going to be with that for the whole 4 years, but they're going to know more about themselves and their strengths. How do they develop relationships with their teachers, their peers, their coaches, their counselors, their admin, all of these things that will open up these opportunities in 10th grade and then in 11th grade and in 12th grade. So as you're thinking about what they can be doing in 9th grade, it's being the best 9th grader that they can. They're not trying to be a college applicant next year. They're trying to be a really, really strong 9th grade student and a young person, right? The teenage years, there's just going to be a lot of changes that are happening, and we want to try to support them, give them space to do that in a healthy way, and grow into these incredible young people that we all work with and are just amazed by on a daily basis. But for next year specifically, how can we just support that transition? Because it is a big transition year.
And when we say exploring, your children will have opportunities to go to club fairs. So in the spring, they'll have a chance to kind of learn more about each club and have the time to kind of dig, which ones seem of my interest? So there will be more information will be coming out to your students about the club fairs, and understanding that some clubs will not be available to 9th graders. So as Ms. Schurier said, like they may have to meet certain GPAs. They're roster-based clubs, so they may have to meet certain requirements in order to get into that club, or just may not be offered to that grade level. So again, that's all just done to ensure that your student is doing what they need to be doing in the moment. I think as a team, we're really cognizant in the moment of what your child should be doing is the best for right now. We've done this long enough that we know that a 9th grader should just be exploring, a 10th grader and what an 11th and 12th grader should do. So if you just stick with our timeline, I promise you that we're preparing your students for the best successful outcome for them too. So lots of information and lots of things to think about. You can find the information on a website of all the clubs that we offer too. So let's have these conversations, have your students come and talk to us about it too. But really, I think the best thing that you can take away from this is that there is no right or wrong pathway for your student. It's really what's best for your student when they're thinking about their own interests and passions.
Okay, so speaking of pathways, let's talk graduation requirements. Students, in order to receive a high school diploma from KIS, must earn a minimum of 22 credits towards graduation. A credit means that a student took a year-long class. So each year-long class equals 1 credit. And so if we look at by subject area, what's required, they need to take English each of the 4 years that they are here. So 4 credits of English are required, okay? 4 credits of math are also required. And of those 4, they must take geometry and algebra 2 as a minimum for the graduation. Social studies has 3 credits required. And the 3 courses that our students are required to take would be East Asian Studies in 9th grade, World History in 10th grade, and then U.S. History in 11th grade. Science is also 3 credits, and they must have at least biology and chemistry in their curriculum. Physical education would be 2 credits, so 2 years of PE, and then arts has 1 credit required. And then they would have 5 elective credits to get to the 22. Now, you may have noticed that it did not mention world language. World language is not a graduation requirement from KIS. Okay, I would say the vast majority of our students do take a language, though, because most U.S. universities will either require or strongly recommend another language other than English. And so that could be one of their electives that they're taking. Also, community service is not a graduation requirement for KIS. So these are the basic outlines of what is required by subject area.
Yeah, I'd add in for the world language, if your family, your child is thinking about not taking a world language in high school, have a conversation with one of the high school counselors. Again, it's not a requirement to graduate, and it's not a requirement for every university. And depending on your background, your child's background, what their goals are, it might not make sense for them for a variety of reasons. But we do generally see most students take it, and we generally recommend most students take world language. And so if you're thinking about not, let's have a conversation so that we can kind of understand and provide the best information that's maybe a little more specific to your situation.
Okay, so if we break it down by grade level, what are the required courses? And each year, students take 7 classes out of the 8 blocks, because Vicki talked about the auto block being 1 block each year. So the 7 in 9th grade or freshman year, all freshmen take 5 mandatory courses. There would be English, math, depending on their math placement or their level. It would be biology, East Asian Studies, and then physical education. So that leaves them with 2 electives to take to get up to the 7. I would say that most students probably fulfill their arts requirement for graduation in 9th grade by taking band or choir or orchestra, theater, one of the other arts courses that are on offer. Then their other elective, again, most usually would be the world language course. So that would round out their 7 courses for 9th grade that your sons or daughters will be taking next year. As we move on to 10th grade, there are 4 courses that are required. Again, English, math, they take chemistry in grade 10, and then they would take world history for their social studies. So taking 4 mandatory courses, that leaves them 3 elective courses. And we have a whole laundry list of courses that are on offer here at KIS that they can choose from. I always encourage my students to try to fulfill their graduation requirements as soon as they can. So it may be taking PE, their second PE in 10th grade. But for some students, it may make sense to take it in 12th grade. There's flexibility in our curriculum that way. Okay. 11th grade, they also have 4 mandatory courses. Back to English, math. They're taking their 3rd year of science, and they can choose from different science options. They would take U.S. history in 11th grade, and again, 3 more elective courses they can choose from. By the time they get to 12th grade, they fulfilled most of the requirements, but they do have to take that year of English and that year of math. Then that leaves them 5 elective courses that they can choose from in grade 12. And we do spend a lot of time talking with our students about their course selections. A lot of our time, I think the last couple of weeks, have been focused on individual meetings with students saying, what should I do? What should I take next year? And this is an important piece because universities are going to be looking at how did the student challenge himself or herself? Did they take an appropriately challenging course, or did they overstretch? Was it too hard for them? Did they get the lower grades? So a lot of our time is spent counseling students academically as well about their 4-year plan.
Yeah, this is good prep for what the next couple of years will look like, both for your children and for you, as we will do counseling lessons on course registration every single year. And as they get a little older, we'll start tying that more and more into college applications, requirements, some of the college search, as well as how we frame the conversation with you guys. Again, this will be an ongoing process. You'll see this every year. There'll be lots of conversations, which then lead to one-on-one conversations with students, with parents. And again, we are here to support you as a family throughout the 4 years.
So to keep track of your students' progress toward graduation, this document is called the 4-year plan. And this is something we will be working with the 8th graders when we go into their classes later this week to start them on the journey of scheduling their courses for 9th grade. So this lists all the courses that are required for graduation, and I would encourage you as a family to keep this document because you can track your son or daughter's progress towards graduation. It would be important for them to keep this document when they register for the courses in Power School next week, so they can remember what they signed up for, what they want to take as a 9th grader. So the different courses our options are listed here because they take English 9, English 10, but in grade 11 they have an option for English courses, the same in grade 12. All the different math courses are listed here. So this is an important document that you keep. I would check off as you're going through each year these to make sure that you're fulfilling the graduation requirements.
Yeah, so some of you, this is called a 4-year plan for a reason, and you can think ahead into the future as you create your plan. And I know that some families will choose to get support from external consultation, which can be very helpful. But I just want to remind you, although it's a 4-year plan, it's not necessarily a 4-year promise. And what I mean by that is allow for some flexibility in that, your child's interests may change and develop and evolve as they progress through high school. They may decide that they have an interest in a certain career or a certain activity or something. And so although it's great to plan ahead and to think about your options in the future, I also want to encourage you to allow space for changes. There are times where students will say, oh, I need to have this, or I need to do this because this is a part of my plan. If I don't do this, my plan, which can be quite stressful and anxiety-inducing. And so I think it's fantastic to plan ahead, and it can be very helpful and effective to plan ahead. But also, as your child matures and grows and develops and learns about themselves, allow for some flexibility in that 4-year plan also.
And I think that's an important point. I had a conversation with a 9th grader last week. We were talking about courses for 10th grade, and then he was talking about courses for 11th grade and 12th grade. And he said, but I'm going to see how I do in my 10th grade courses, and that will determine what courses I take in 11th grade. Because things may change. They may think I want to do this in 11th grade, but when they take that science class or that math class, whatever, in 10th grade, that may change their curriculum choice for 11th or 12th grade. So there's flexibility in the program here.
I was just going to add, I saw a lot of people taking photos. This document, there's a more detailed one that's online, and that we'll be handing out to your kids when we see them this week. And here's where you can find some of that information.
Right. So this is on the KIS website, and the course catalog that is circled there, this is an important document for you to be researching. The course catalog lists all the courses that we teach here at KIS, and it gives a course description. So if you're wondering what is taught in world history, you could go to the world history section and read what is being taught. This also lists the prerequisite courses. So if you want to take AP Computer Science, you may need to take programming in grade 9 or grade 10, for instance. So this will list the course descriptions and also the prerequisites. So to get to this document, on the Parent Resources section of the KIS website, you would click on the High School tab, and then in the lower left-hand would be the course catalog. And that will open up the document for you, which is, I think, like 70 pages long or something. It's a huge document filled with a lot of information that I know in my first year here I've been using a lot, just so I can learn more about the courses that are on offer here.
I still refer to it. I'll have students come in and be like, wait, what grade do I need to take Calculus BC? And I'll be like, let's pull up the course guide. So it is a really helpful document. It gets updated every single year. The administrators, the counselors, all the departments kind of review it on an ongoing basis.
So with all this choice, it can be hard to know what things do I need to consider to make some of these important decisions. And some of those decisions will be made for you and for your child when it comes to graduation requirements, for example, or college admission requirements if they know that they want to attend a college that requires a language or 3 to 4 years of language. That decision has kind of been made for them. But there are choices that need to be made, and so I'm just going to share some factors that you should be thinking about as you think about some of those choices. So we've touched upon graduation requirements already, and we spoke a little bit about college admission requirements when it comes to language, for example, or perhaps your student is thinking about becoming an engineer, or so then certain science and math courses will be better for that student. But then, and career interests. And we say career interest because it is an interest, especially if your student is thinking about going to the US. US universities allow students to change their major as their interests develop and grow. They may be changing their major. So if your student has an interest, I'm really interested in film, allow that exploration to do media production, for example, or theater, or film as literature, for example, to just foster and see, okay, I did media production, but I really hate editing. I don't like it, so perhaps that's not a good career choice for them. Academic fit, I think, is really important, a really important factor to consider. I have students come to me and say, well, in grade 10, I can take 2 APs, so I'm going to take this AP and this AP. And then when I ask, how did you like, they want to take AP Bio in grade 10. And how did you do in Bio? Not very well, it was really difficult. Did you enjoy it? No. So why are you going to take AP Biology? And so clearly that isn't an academic fit for them. And so having taken that into consideration, what is a right fit? What does your student enjoy? Sometimes we can have going back to that 4-year plan idea as parents, or potential even consultants, have a predetermined plan. Your child is going to do this and go along this path. But if, as your child is going through high school, they are not doing well in a particular course, they don't enjoy a particular course, then that really isn't a good academic fit. And if it's not a good academic fit, it's probably not going to be a good major fit when I'm talking about university. If it's not a good major fit, it's probably not going to be a good career fit. And so, thinking about that and having those conversations with your child. How are you enjoying this class? When you're talking about what courses they're going to select will be really helpful. And allowing your child to say, actually, I don't like that. Allowing your child to express their own opinion, that's really going to lead to more success. Somebody who enjoys a class is more motivated to be successful in that class. When you're more motivated to be successful, you get higher grades, which can lead to academic success and beyond. Thinking about time commitments as your child goes through high school. We share this a lot, so you're going to hear this again. But just because a student has access to a certain amount of AP courses, for example, it doesn't mean that student should be doing the maximum amount of APs. Maybe they have a lot of things going on outside of school. Maybe they're doing 3 sports in a year at KIS. Maybe they're a pro golfer outside of school, or they're training to be a K-pop star outside of school. Pursuing 2, 3, 4, 5 APs through high school while trying to be a K-pop star is probably not the best for that student based on their time commitments. And so have a think about that. That really just speaks onto balance as well, and just going into what's best for your student. I think often parents and students compare themselves to each other. Oh, this student is taking AP World History and AP Bio, so I should also take that. But your child is an individual with their own unique strengths and character traits. And focusing on those unique strengths will allow you to make the decisions that's best for your student.
Those last two words are important, the for you, because too often we see parents, families, students that are trying to do what they think is best, right? And they're chasing what's best, what looks best, what sounds best. What can I put on a resume that's best? What can I brag to my friends is that's best? How do I get the highest GPA and the highest test score because that's best? And that doesn't tend to lead towards success. Like it really doesn't. Versus the students, the families that think, what is best for this individual person, for their path, for their strengths, their interests? And how are they the best version of that? And I think those last two words are just a really, really key piece. And the more that you can try to model that for your child, the more they're getting that message from different people. I think the more confident that they will be in making those choices for themselves. I would say we've had lots of conversations about courses for next year, and I think about the ninth graders. And I guarantee you, we haven't really talked about this, but I guarantee you all of them have had a similar conversation with a ninth grader who had said some version of, I really like East Asian studies, I really like history, but I've heard AP World is really hard. Yes, we've all?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's always like, okay, who's telling you that? Like, did they like East Asian studies? Do they like history? Where is that coming? Are they good at that subject? Because it sounds like you really, you like your history teacher, you're getting an A in that class, you're really interested in that. Seems like AP World could be a really good fit for you. But they hear that message of, well, AP Bio is better, right? Or I need to take this math class. It's like, okay, do you like bio? Okay, why are we thinking about taking this class the next year? And again, that's that what is best versus what is best for them, what is best for what they're planning to do, because having that confidence to be like, that's cool that you guys say this was hard or you weren't that interested, but for me, I love history and I really want to take this and I think this is going to be a strength of mine. Those are the students who will be the most successful down the road.
And I think what's important to look at is we always talk about the student but the student always is coming to talk to us about the college. But each college is so different that they could formulate this one plan for this one university, but it does not fit the next university or the next. So it really should not be formulated to a specific university, but rather themselves. So again, going back to the what's best for them, and then let the university, let that kind of process naturally and authentically happen to like where they would be a good fit. You'll hear us later talk about match and best fits for them for universities. And it starts with them picking and doing what's best for them in the beginning so that it just naturally happens later on for them in the process.
And I think there's so much pressure to do what everybody else is doing. Like I think Ryan was saying that, everybody else is taking 2 APs, I've got to take 2 APs. And before I was a high school counselor, I worked at university admissions for 11 years. So I was reading admissions files for students applying. And when I was reading the file, I was focusing on that student. I wasn't comparing them to what everybody else at that school was doing. I was looking at, in the context of that student, what is their best program? Did they challenge themselves appropriately? For some students, 2 APs in 10th grade is appropriate. For some, 1 is appropriate. And they did very well with that 1 AP and still earned very good acceptances. So don't get caught in we've got to do what everybody else is doing. Follow your own path, I think, is the best advice. Do what's right for your son or daughter. What's the best fit for you? Because an admissions officer, as I was reading the file, I wanted to get to know that student. I didn't care what everybody else is doing. I was looking at that one particular student.
Just a quick plug, Chuck brought something up, the college admissions side. So just something that we've been doing now for 3 years in the high school counseling team is running mock admissions. We've done it for parents. We do it for students every year, but we also do parent sessions in the fall and the spring. So we've done it now for 3 years, and we use different kind of made-up applicant files and take you through what that other side looks like. And so there'll be a number of different presentations and workshops that we'll do during high school, but that's one that we run year after year. So something that you'll get a chance to see what it looks like from the other side as well. So again, something to look forward to next year.
So I think kind of everything we've been saying is just about helping you guide your child to find balance. And finding that balance is going to require your help and your encouragement and your wisdom to help them find that. I wish I made it up. I wanted to pretend like I did, but his name's right there. Is that more is not better, but better is better. What is best for your child is best. Your child next year is going to have access to a lot of new opportunities, a lot more opportunities, but they still only have 24 hours in a day. They don't get more time. And part of them maturing, being high school students, and becoming young adults, is learning to make choices and decisions. I like to use this kind of example as children and as babies. They always say, I want candy, I want McDonald's, I want Transformers toys, I want PlayStation. Becoming an adult is learning to knowing that not everything we want is good for us. And your children are now going to go through that stage of, but that's not right for me, but I really want this, and they're going to need your guidance in that. And that's what we're here as counselors, is to also guide your children find balance. A student who is balanced is successful. A balanced student is happy. A balanced student is creative. A balanced student has energy. And those are the things that we're going to try to really help your child to achieve as they go through high school. Next. So our timeline. Today, we've had the parent presentation telling you about course registration. We will be meeting with your students later in the week. I think it's Thursday and Friday. We will meet with every grade 8 student. One of the counselors will go into their science class and be sharing this exact same information with your child. So you can have a conversation with them. At the end of the week, you can reflect on this presentation because they would have received the same information. On the 22nd of January, there's going to be an electives video shared with you. And this is going to tell you about what the elective choices that are available to your student for you to make an informed decision on what courses to choose next year. Courses will then be entered into PowerSchool during the middle school advisory. Your child will be guided through that process during their advisory time. And it's important that they really think about what they want to pick. Because that's the course that they'll be taking next year. However, come April, they will have the option to request to change that course. So it's not kind of the final decision yet, but it is a very thoughtful decision right now. And if for some reason between now and April, there's been a new understanding of themselves, they've thought about what they would like to do instead, then there's the option to request to change in April. That request is not guaranteed, but if it works with the student's schedule, then we can make that change. And then finally, in June, I know students and parents can anticipate who's going to be the child's counselor next year, as that's the relationship we will have for potentially 4 years, which is fantastic. That decision you will get that result in June, and you'll all get that result together on who your child counselor will be in high school.
Unless you have an older child already in high school, and then you will continue to work with the same counselor.
Oh, we're done.
Under an hour. So I'm just going to tell you now, a lot of our presentations in high school, we just can't stop talking, and they always go longer than an hour. But this one, we did a good job. So good job, team.
Good.
So at this point, we'll end the presentation. We'll hang out up here if you want to come up, ask some questions. Again, there will be some, wait, was there a,
There was upcoming events.
yeah,
I thought that's why I was surprised.
is it
It's right
skipped?
before the questions. I've got it.
It was there before. Have you got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we do have some upcoming parent events for you, grade 8 parents specifically. On the 18th of February, we have a grade 8 and 9 Mythbusters presentation. So this is a presentation going over some perhaps rumors you may have heard, things that you hear, you've read on Reddit, or parents talking about, and that may not be true. And we kind of try to go through all of those things to ensure that all parents are well informed with the correct information. In spring, we have a welcome to high school coffee with administration. So with high school administration, you get to meet them and ask some questions and just get familiar with who you'll be working with when your child is in high school. And then on April 17th, there will be a grade 8 parent coffee with counselors. Our parent coffees are very informal. You have the option to submit questions before the parent coffee, but you also just have the option just to come and ask whatever questions on your mind. And it's a real informal conversation. We go back and forth. And it's just a time to, get to know us, but also to answer any questions. So we do have this here. However, I will make sure these are updated on our counselor website. So you can find these on our counselor website to remind yourselves of when these important dates are.
The parent coffees, we do those every month for a different grade level. So I think we've got grade 9 parents next week that we're going to do a coffee with, and I think it's grade 11 the next month. And so in high school, for each grade level, we will have a couple throughout the year. Again, ask some questions, talk about what's going on, hear what questions other parents of children of the same age have, that sort of thing. So,
Do you want to take some questions?
June, you can end the recording at this point? Yeah, question.